All right, we're doing this thing. Welcome to the Wildcast podcast. I'm Justin Spears here with my guy, Michael Lev, senior writer and columnist for Tucson.com/the Arizona Daily Star. Make sure you subscribe to the Wildcast on Apple, Spotify, other podcasting platforms, and also find the video version of this pod on Tucson.com and also the Wildcaster mobile app. Yes, it is February and soon to be March, and there's going to be a lot of madness coming up here in this next month, especially down here in Tucson with this red-hot Arizona basketball team. We'll see how far they go in March. Our guy Bruce Pascoe and Lev doing a great job covering the Arizona Wildcats this season. And then we'll see what happens with the Arizona women's team when they get out to are they – yeah, they're going to go out to the Big 12 tournament. What seed are they going to be?
Kansas
15
City,
probably?
14 or 15. 15 is probably what we're looking at. We're recording this on Tuesday afternoon. They play Houston tonight, and Houston is behind them in the standings. And I guess they could leapfrog them if they were to win this game. That's the only team that is below them. You would like to think that on senior night, coming off a pretty good performance at Baylor against the worst team in the league, that Arizona could pull this off and avoid that 16 seed in what I believe is a double bye setup in the Big 12 tournament.
Yep.
So either way, it's going to be really difficult for them to win more than one game. And of course, they'll be an underdog in that one game too. The only team they could surpass is UCF. UCF is also 2-14. They lost head-to-head to UCF. That was a game that Becky Burke was pretty upset about. UCF finishes at home against West Virginia, which is a very good team this year, and at Houston. And Arizona plays Houston, and then they go to Utah.
Okay.
So they will be near the bottom in what is an unquestioned, just sort of laying the foundation, rebuilding type year for Becky Burke.
Yeah, as far as Arizona, going far and, maybe punch their ticket to the NCAA tournament, which they could still do, does not look good for them. It does not bode well. Their chance of winning the conference tournament. I wouldn't bet on them.
1% chance, it'll be nearly impossible. They have to, play 4 or 5. They'd have to win 5 games in a row. They've only won 2 games out of 16. And they just, this podcast is not going to be about the women's basketball team. It's going to be primarily about football. But real quick, they run into depth and size problems pretty much everywhere they go. And that would only be exacerbated in a tournament format where you have to play, every single day.
Heck yeah. We'll see what happens with them. Man, I'm really excited for the month of March coming up here because Tucson, Arizona is just a very special place that time of year because you have all the spring sports going on right now. And then you've got the basketball team, which is representing Tucson, representing the University of Arizona on a national scale. And when the Cats are good and when they go far in the NCAA tournament, life just seems better in Tucson, Arizona. And then we've got spring football starting up too for the Arizona Wildcats, now going into year number 3 under head coach Brent Brennan. We'll talk about his contract extension, also the coordinators and their extensions coming up later on in this podcast and what that means. But Lev, just taking a look at, and also Twitter mailbag /x.com mailbag. We'll be diving into those later on in this podcast. But Lev, I did want to start off with something that's happening this week. We have the NFL scouting combine in Indianapolis, and there's going to be a handful of Arizona representatives, not just Wildcats from this past season, Lev, but Wildcats from years before. The guys over with Jed Fish at Washington, Jonah Coleman, Ephesians Prysock, Takario Davis. You guys remember those names. Well, they'll be also at the NFL scouting combine with their former Arizona teammates, Genesis Smith, Dalton Johnson, and Traden Stukes. I have a kind of a little preview story going into the NFL scouting combine you can find on Tucson.com and the Wildcaster mobile app. And, Lev, this is the 3rd straight year that Arizona's had multiple representatives at the NFL scouting combine. A few years back, they had guys like Jacob Cowling and Tanner McLaughlin and Jordan Morgan. Last year, guys like Tetaro McMillan, Jonas Savianaya, and Tyler Loop. They all went, even though T-Mac didn't participate in the on-field drills. He went to the combine. He just didn't do the drill work. He instead opted to do the whole private workout thing. And then this year, you've got 3 defensive backs who have been the leaders of Arizona's defense for the last few seasons. And I think that each of them kind of have their own different and unique story as to how they got into a position to become an NFL player. And I think, to me, the headliner, if there is a headliner, because I think they're all 3 great defensive backs and they might all, kind of be somewhat in the same range, I would probably say that Stooks and Genesis Smith, they have higher draft stock than, say, a guy like Dalton Johnson. So, if I were to project my, as educated as I am about Arizona football, this is my educated guess, Lev, that we could see Stooks and Genesis Smith maybe go as high as day 2 in the draft. And I'm talking, second, third round, or maybe early day 3, which is rounds 4 through 7. I can't imagine Genesis Smith and Traden Stooks falling to later day 3. So I'm just going to shoot my shot and say late day 2, early day 3, and then Dalton Johnson somewhere in that day 3 mix. What about you? What say you?
Well, one of the most respected draft analysts out there, in my view, is Dane Brugler, who works for The Athletic. I think he does a superb job. He put out his top 100 prospects earlier this month on February 11th, and he had Genesis Smith at number 72 overall and Traden Stooks at number 77 overall, which would put them in, if I'm doing the math here correctly, in the 3rd round of the draft, if that held up. Of course, a lot can change between now and then. We'll have to see how they work out, how they interview, all of these different things, what the NFL thinks of them. But I don't think it's unreasonable at all for them to be 3rd rounders, maybe 4th rounders. If I were to set the over-under of how many U of A players get drafted, I'd probably set it at 2.5 because Dalton Johnson is the one where we're not sure, right? If he's going to be like a late round pick or a UDFA. Now, working in his favor is the fact that he got invited to the NFL scouting combine.
Yeah.
I mean, that means that he's got a legit shot at this thing. When those 3 players elected not to play in the Holiday Bowl, angered a lot of people. I think we've learned in the aftermath of that people were maybe more mad about the fact that it wasn't announced than the fact that they didn't play. Like if it had been announced a couple weeks earlier and people kind of knew, hey, I know what I'm getting myself into, or maybe I don't want to go on this trip because those guys aren't playing, they wouldn't have been quite as angry. But anyway, when that happened, a lot of, people were like, oh, like Dalton Johnson, why is he doing this? He's not even going to get drafted. Well, seems like he's got a chance to be drafted, which would be a pretty awesome way for him to kind of cap his Arizona career. And it would be very, very cool to see, 3 guys with that Block A logo have their names called up at any point during the festivities, which are in where's the draft this year?
Pittsburgh, baby. Shout out to Brett Farah, our old boss.
Nice. He should totally go.
Oh, totally. Well, and one thing about Dalton that I think works in his favor, in addition to what Lev said about him getting invited to the scouting combine, because if you're getting invitation to the scouting combine, you're on the radar in some shape or form, right? You may not be considered a high round pick, but you are on the radar. And Dalton, I mean, we've gotten to know him over the years. Very cool guy, very chill guy. He's going to interview well. And he's also, you just turn on the tape and he is a guy that has a nose for the football. I mean, his last home game at Arizona had 18 tackles and led Arizona in tackles in back-to-back seasons as a strong safety. And he doesn't have the body type as Derwin James, right? Or Kyle Hamilton, right? These are big-bodied safeties. But one guy that I think is a somewhat fair comparison, and that's why I say somewhat fair, because this guy, I believe, was a first-round pick. But if you look at the body types, and I'm not saying Dalton Johnson is going to be this guy, but Budda Baker has a very similar body type. But and Budda, much like Dalton Johnson, has a nose for the football. He's all over the place making tackles, has been doing that for the last several years with the Arizona Cardinals. So, I think Dalton Johnson, by the traditional NFL standards for safeties nowadays, You got to have the length. But I think Dalton Johnson has the football awareness, the football IQ, and I think a nose for the football that's going to, maybe translate to the NFL. And who knows? I think Dalton could be one hell of a special teams guy. And I would think at least he's going to be sticking around on a practice squad for several years.
Yeah, I saw you make that comparison in your story today. I really like it. I think that's probably the high end. I think like the realistic Arizona comp for him might be Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, right? Who wasn't drafted, but has been in the league ever since.
Yeah.
Mostly as a special teams player, has played some defense, but he kind of went from being a safety in college to a nickel linebacker, I guess is what you'd call him in the NFL. And Dalton, if you remember, actually played linebacker a little bit during over the last couple of seasons. He dropped down into that kind of, hybrid box safety, space linebacker type of position. He's got the bulk to do it. I think he's a little bit better on the back end than Demetrius was. But I could definitely see him carving out and he also played on almost every special teams here too.
Yeah.
Even as a fifth-year senior. So I could definitely see him carving out a career similar to Demetrius, where he's a core special teamer. He's a great fit in the locker room, and he's someone who can give you kind of a versatile chess piece on the defensive side of the ball.
The other two guys, Genesis Smith and Traydon Stukes, like you mentioned, Brugler put him in the top 100 going into the draft.
Top 80, yeah.
So that would, have them right there in that third round. And I was looking at Mel Kiper's latest big board, and he's got Traydon Stukes just on the outside because he ranks top 10 at each position, and he has Traydon Stukes listed as a cornerback. Some draft sites view Traydon as a safety, but Mel Kiper is putting him as a cornerback. And looking at where he falls just on the outside, he would be like the 16th best cornerback entering the draft. And then he's got Genesis Smith as the 8th best safety going into this draft. So I think it's fair to say that those two guys, their stock is getting better as we approach the NFL draft. And then I think the NFL scouting combine, to me, this is where Stukes is going to shine, man, because he is a state champion long jumper, right?
And triple jumper.
And triple jumper. So I think that those, the vertical testing, the broad jump, the 40-yard dash, he's a very fast player. And we've seen him kind of make those recovery tackles in games this season.
Or recovery interceptions, the interception of all interceptions against ASU. So we'll see that play a bunch over the next couple
totally.
months.
I mean, when he gets drafted, that play will come up. But yeah, I just think that, with Stukes, he's going to test really well, and I think he's only going to benefit from this. And then Genesis Smith, I mean, we've seen his leaping abilities in spring ball and training camp in the last year. So he's got that ability, even though he doesn't have the interceptions to match what we saw leading up to the season, but he still has that athletic ability. So I feel like Genesis might test well. And considering all the stuff that he's done off the field with his foundation, everything, NFL teams are going to look at that and they're going to be very impressed with his resume. So yeah, I think it's fair to say that all three guys will get drafted. 2.5 is a very fair number to set that over under at. But yeah, those two guys in particular, I think they're going to really benefit from the scouting combine.
Yeah, with those two, I think it sort of depends on what you're looking for, right? Traydon Stukes is versatile. He could be a safety. He could be an outside corner. He could be a nickel corner, which is the position that he played primarily this past season in Danny Gonzalez's defense.
Didn't they say he could play all 8?
Yeah.
Or something I was like, eight positions in the secondary. What the hell? I was trying to do the math.
No, we're all like, what are you talking about? There aren't 8 positions, but apparently there are. I don't know. If you go dime this or nickel that, I guess you could probably create 8 different spots, but very smart player.
Yeah.
He is older. Okay. He was a 6th-year player this last year. Sometimes that dings you a little bit. Whereas with Genesis, he's coming out after his 3rd year. So he is super young. They might view him as a player, like they might view Dalton and Traden as both kind of like nearing their peak. Like this is kind of like what you see is what you get. Whereas with Genesis, I think there's still there's some projection there.
He's
There's
Dalen
some
Terry,
upside, right? Yeah, sure. I mean, it's almost, as a third year versus a sixth year. I mean, think about it. Like, what's Genesis going to look like 3 years from now?
Yeah.
I think to me, he's a post safety, right? He is a center fielder. You want to stick him back there. You're you can play one high type of coverage, and although they play a lot of two high in the NFL these days, but he's one of those guys who can cover the deep ball. I think he needs to become more consistent as a tackler.
Yeah.
He definitely had too many missed tackles this year, and he needs to just get bigger, bulkier, which again, like 3 years from now, what does that look like? So I think he's someone that will get picked a little bit more on upside, whereas the other two are closer to finished products, and that's how the NFL will kind of view them.
So with those guys and the three Washington Huskies that we mentioned earlier,
reunion.
Let's say they're all available, Lev.
Oh man,
who do you draft?
Damn. Okay, so you're asking me to rank. Okay, you want me to rank those 6 players?
Sure.
Oh man. Okay, this is difficult.
I would take Stooks number 1 just because of the versatility that we just mentioned. Like he could play every position in the secondary if you really wanted to.
Dane did not put Prysock or Takario or Jonah in his top 100. Interestingly enough, for whatever that's worth. Man, okay, I haven't seen those guys play as much the last couple of years, so it's sort of hard to assess like how much they've improved or not improved. I know that both Prysock and Davis have great length, which in certain schemes is very sought after, right? I thought Sicario, like, he was a little tentative at times during his last year at Arizona. So was some kind of injury going on, and he was kind of 1 foot in the portal and 1 foot out. I like to think there's a little bit more in the tank there than what he showed his last year here. Gosh, in Prysock, it's been so long. I would say the NFL would probably value corners, pure corners, over safeties in general. So that could bump them ahead. They also discount running backs. But this is a weak running back class, as I understand it. I don't know where Jonah ranks in Kuiper's top 10 or whatever, but I think he's a stud. We've talked about him many times on the pod. He's tough, low to the ground. Like, his thighs are like ridiculously big and strong. So I would probably, just sort of thinking like how NFL teams would think about it. Probably go like Davis, Prysock, Genesis, Stooks, Jonah, Dalton.
Okay, I can buy that. All right. I just tried to put in the gong sound. That sounded terrible. That wasn't very.
What? That was it? Did you not?
Not
what you were going for? Is that like signaling that we're on to the next segment?
I was going on to the next segment.
Yeah,
that was my gong.
Sounded okay.
Okay, to me, it just sounded like a distorted gong. I was like, it's like a gong on a JBL speaker. Just it's all muffled. But okay, let's talk some contract extensions, shall we?
Yes.
So Arizona head coach Brent Brennan received a contract extension that was officially approved by the Arizona Board of Regents last week, or the contract was agreed a couple weeks ago, and then it was approved last week by ABOR. And man, come to find out, Brent Brennan is the first Arizona head coach to officially receive a contract extension and sign it and get approved since Rich Rodriguez in 2014. If you guys remember, Jed Fish, they were working on a contract extension. Obviously, it wasn't official. So, yeah, Brent Brennan, first Arizona coach since Rich Rod to get the old extension. And now, the thing about Brent Brennan's contract that makes it so interesting, which is it runs through the 2030 season. Brent will have a $4.7 million annual salary. It's $3.8 million in base salary, and then you get $500,000 annually for additional duties, and then $400,000 from Arizona Sports Enterprises. So that's where the money is coming from. He was previously set to earn $2.6 million for this upcoming season. Lev, the one thing that is interesting about this contract extension, in addition to Brent getting a little bit more money, and now he's more towards the middle of the pack when it comes to coaching salaries in the Big 12. But if you look at the contract over the years, it stays the same. It is $4.7 million across the board annually for Brent, and they get $6 million for a salary pool, which ranks third in the Big 12, according to the U of A. And then I think that it says a lot that there's no escalator. It's not getting bigger as the contract goes on. Brent Brennan just stays the same. And, having conversations with Brent over the last couple of years, Brent is the kind of guy where he's like, listen, I'm not clamoring more money for me. I just want money for my guys so we can have continuity and build consistency here and have something similar to, say, Utah, right? Not only was Kyle Whittingham there for 2 decades, but his coordinators were there for quite a long time as well. That stuff is very important for building a football program. And so Brent wanted to make sure that his coordinators were taken care of, and sure enough, they were. Seth Dagey, Danny Gonzalez, they received contract extensions that will take them through the 2028 season, and they will have $1.1 million in 2026, 1.6 in 2027, and 1.7 in 2028, which will be a grand total of $4.4 million. And they're both earning the same amount of money. So Brent's contract, even all the way through 2030, the coordinators' contracts, they match up with each other. I think this is a really good deal for Arizona. What about you, Lev?
Yeah, there is a way that Brent can make a little bit more money, and that is by winning a lot of games. If he wins 8+, if he hits the 8-win threshold in the regular season at any point, like a $200,000 bonus kicks in. There are, of course, also incentives for winning things like winning the Big 12 and
GPA,
college playoffs and GPA, all that kind of stuff. That's sort of standard issue. To me, there's a few key points about this whole deal. Number one, extending the assistants in the way that they did. To the best of our knowledge, there has never been a time in the history of Arizona football where assistant coaches have gotten contracts longer than 2 years. And they gave them 3-year deals, 26, 27, and 28. That is a commitment, right? That is, to me, this whole thing is it shows we are serious about football, right? We are not Arizona, the basketball school. We are Arizona, the basketball school that is striving to also be a football school and be very competitive in that space. And I know for a fact, because they've talked about it a million times, that Brent Brennan and Ben Thenis, and who's the CEO of the football program, Danny Gonzalez, continuity is so important. And it's so difficult to attain in modern college football when there's the transfer portal, right? It's wide open. You can leave whenever you want, pretty much. You can transfer as many times as you want. There's always so much movement with the coaching carousel, with how impatient administrations are. It would be really beneficial to me for Arizona to keep the band together for a little while, right? I've been on this job since December of 2015, right? And we've gone through, this is head coach number 4 in a 10-year span. I couldn't even tell you how many offensive and defensive coordinators. It felt like for a while it was a new defensive coordinator every year, right? And
last trade on Stooks.
Yeah, right.
How many defensive coordinators he's had?
Yeah. So Danny could leave, of course, after next season if he got a head coaching opportunity. but this makes it a little bit harder to make that decision, right? And there's probably some kind of financial disincentives for him to leave or something to that effect. Seth Dagey, I think, someone who recognizes, hey, I'm still young. Like, this is my first Power 5 or Power 4 job. Maybe I should stick around here a little while rather than looking for the next best thing, which is what so many coaches do. That's not Brent Brennan. Brent Brennan's not looking for the next best thing. He feels like he's got the best thing right here and right now. Here's my question for you, Justin. I saw somebody say, like, hey, it's awesome that they locked up the coordinators. Why did they need to do this with Brent? Couldn't they have just kept Brent where he was? I think he'd be on the same timeline, expiring after 28. He really only had one good season. Was this necessary?
I think it's absolutely necessary. I mean, because you know that he's going to be here for the long haul. So why not show your commitment to him by giving him a contract extension? Like, he has shown you that he could turn this program around with his guy. He could build it his own way, and they could be very successful. So I think it was important to keep Brent Brennan for as long as possible. And I mean, you're already 2 years into this. So in Arizona, you get 5-year coaching extensions. You're already halfway through the first one. You don't want to get into a situation where, Brent Brennan is approaching the final year of his contract, and it's like, okay, he's done so well. So are you guys going to give him a contract extension or not? And maybe it's a different administration, but I'm like, did they learn from the Jed Fish thing and decided, hey, rather than just wait, let's just go ahead and give him the contract extension now and lock him in? But the difference between Brent and Jed is Jed's an opportunist. He is always looking over his shoulder, trying to find the next opportunity. Brent is just not like that. But I think it's important that, you get Brent Brennan in place, and then it also shows recruits, future Wildcats, like, hey, this guy, he's going to be here through the 2030 season. When you come here now, Brent Brennan's going to be here for the long haul. So that's where I stand on that.
Yeah. I mean, I can see both sides of that argument, to be sure. I don't think that I don't know this, but I don't think that this was necessarily something Brent was clamoring for, but like, it's sort of symbolic, right? It sends a message that the administration is serious about football.
Yeah.
And the fact that the assistant salary pool, according to them, according to U of A, is third in the league. That's a big deal too.
Huge. Yeah.
Because I mean, those are some areas where they're not subject to the revenue sharing cap, right? I would still sort of like, it's not the same necessarily pool of money as NIL, but there's donor contributions that are involved in this sort of thing. So it's kind of maybe coming from the same place. So maybe it's a little bit of kind of the same pool of money there. But it's significant to me that happened. And just think about this offseason versus last offseason. Like, it was just so much doom and gloom.
Yeah.
Right. And look, we made the mistake, going into Brent's first season, kind of overrating the team and their chances. We've been over that a million times. I'm really loath to do that again this year, but the vibes are pretty good.
Yeah.
Right. And things feel like stable and
keyword,
calm, right? Which is those are good things.
When you're stable in college football, you're in a really, really good spot. And fortunately for Arizona, they got stability right now. And, we're going to get one more year out of Seth Dagey and Noah Fafita. And it would have been nice to see, if like a guy like Genesis Smith came back and played another season in Danny Gonzalez's system, the next gear that Genesis can get to. But Genesis opted for the NFL. But I'm excited to see what Noah Fafita is going to do in year 2 under Dagey, because when Dagey first got there, spring training camp, even in the season, still like a figuring out process, like it wasn't like Noah Fafita hit the ground running and all of a sudden, boom, he was thriving in Dagey's system. It took a little bit. And so now that they've gone through an entire cycle of being the play caller and quarterback, man, what's this upcoming season going to look like for Noah? I mean, he evolved as a runner. I think we could finally see Noah Fafita in the final stage of his evolution as a quarterback. And heck, he was already a first team all Big 12 quarterback. Maybe we're talking about him being in the conversation as a Big 12 offensive player of the year. I mean, you've got the defending player of the year coming back, right? And LJ Martin. And then you got, Bear Bachmeier as well, still in the mix. Like BYU is going to still be right there. But I think Daggy, Noah Fafita, and this is the first time that Noah has had the same offensive coordinator from the previous season since taking over as a starter, right? Because we're talking about the last 3 seasons playing under new coordinators. Continuity, stability, good for a program and also good for a quarterback, Lev.
So are you going to put some money down on Noah winning the Heisman? Maybe if you can even find those odds, way down the board. Arizona players never done it. It's probably not going to happen, but what do you got to lose? I don't know. Like,
hey man,
you can get really, really good odds, huh?
I didn't think a Super Bowl MVP quarterback would come from the University of Arizona.
True, no,
it happened. True. So
that's true. I'm very curious to see how all the new pieces fit together, and we will of course get together again sometime either before the start of spring football or early on during spring practice, which starts when does that start?
March 24th.
March 24th. Okay.
Spring showcase, April 25th.
Okay. So we've got basically a month plus of football action in the spring. Who knows what the future holds for spring football in general and college football? That could change. But I'm very curious to see how all the new pieces fit together on defense. Obviously, Danny Gonzalez did an unbelievably good job as the coordinator of this unit last year, but he had those 3 players that we were talking about earlier, right? Plus Michael Dansby, who had a great year and might sneak onto an NFL roster if things go well. Like, how are these new guys going to fit in? Are they going to be as good? Are they going to be way worse? Is Arizona overall going to hit on this at the same rate that it did last year in the portal? That's an unknown. That is a total unknown. But, thankfully, we have people like our colleague, John Wilner, around to kind of project these types of things. Wilner today, I don't know if it was today, but it was published on our site today. He put out like a Big 12 football projection / power rankings as of, late February. And I got to tell you, Justin, this is a fascinating list, to say the least. I'll go through here a couple. BYU number 1, that makes sense.
Totally.
Even with the Parker Kingston situation, still does. Texas Tech number 2, they've reloaded, went back into the portal, upgraded a quarterback, arguably. Won't be as good defensively, but it'll be almost impossible. Houston number 3. Again, this makes a lot of sense because Connor Wegman's back. They were actually really good last year. I ranked them ahead of Arizona. I think they ended up ahead of Arizona in the top 25, where Wildcats got bumped at the end in the final AP rankings. Number 4, your Arizona Wildcats. And then things get really crazy. ASU, that kind of makes sense. Number 6, Oklahoma State.
The team that was dead last?
Dead last 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
But now has North Texas's coach, Eric Morris, and North Texas quarterback, Drew Mestemaker, who threw for over 4,000 yards last year. I have not mentioned the Utah Utes, who are number 7 on this list. And then West Virginia, which has totally redone its roster again in year 2 under Rich Rod, is number 8. Your thoughts on the top 8 before we get to the 9 through 16, where things are arguably even wackier?
Wilner causing chaos in these Big 12 power rankings. I mean, Oklahoma State, they are such a wild card. I mean, I could see where Wilner is coming from. And also, there's one important thing to note is the year where Arizona went into the Big 12, that first year, right? And everyone was like, oh, Arizona's the 5th best team in the Big 12. And Oklahoma State, look out for the Cowboys. And both of those teams were near the bottom of the Big 12 standings. And then meanwhile, you had ASU dead last, winning the league and going to the college football playoff. So let me just put that out there, okay? Us pundits, reporters, this time of year, we don't know sugar, honey, iced tea. You can go ahead and figure out what acronym that is. We don't know it. We don't know anything right now. So this is just kind of a fun practice. We are educated, right? We're looking at the rosters and the coaches and where they're at. But BYU, I think, is a good one. Where'd you say Texas Tech was?
2.
Okay, number 2.
And Houston,
want to make
3.
sure.
Yeah.
And Houston 3. Yeah, I can get behind that. I am worried. Is Houston? Do they have Amari Thomas coming back, or is he going to the NFL draft?
No, I think they do.
Oh, so if Amari Thomas is coming back, and then you have Connor Wegman.
You also have a coach who just always wins.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, Willie Fritz
is a winner.
He's a winner. Let me look up Amari Thomas here real quick. He played at UAB for 2 seasons before coming to Houston. So he should be good to go.
Okay.
I'll double check that. But yeah, very good physical wide receiver. Excellent over the middle. Top target for them. They also have big time quarterback recruit coming in who's going to sit behind Wegman this year. But that to me is more like faith in Fritz. He's one of those guys. He's one of those guys. Not saying he's Kurt Cignetti.
No.
Maybe no one's Kurt Cignetti, but he might be a poor man's Kurt Cignetti. What do you make of Utah? Utah year 1 post Kyle Whittingham era, lost a lot of players to Michigan. You have two exciting quarterbacks coming back in Devin Dampier and Bert Ficklin. Utah being 7th, but behind Oklahoma State and just 1 spot out of West Virginia. That breaks my brain.
Yeah, I would have definitely put Utah ahead of, say, Oklahoma State, just because it is a new staff, but the culture is still somewhat the same. It's Morgan Scalley. Yeah. It's still the Whittingham brand. It's just a little bit watered down because some of those guys decided to follow Kyle Whittingham to Michigan, but it's still there. So, yeah, I still think Utah, I'm not ready to write them off as like a bad team in the Big 12. I think they're a good team. And then Bert Ficklin, I mean, he was awesome this past season as like the ultimate Swiss Army knife. What kind of role are they going to have him play? Is he going to be like Taysom Hill 2.0, but playing for Utah, where he's just like this ultimate gadget player that you can just put him anywhere on the field and he's going to be great? So yeah, that to me was a little bit of a surprise. As far as Arizona goes, I'm not calling bias here, but Wilner is a Brennan guy. Wilner loves him some Brent Brennan, and they go back all the way to Brent's time coaching at San Jose State. And Brent has showed us that, he has done kissing ass, and he has done, trying to, do whatever he can to keep the glue together. That's all out the window now that he's going into year 3. This is his program. It's his brand. And Wilner is very confident in Arizona football under Brent Brennan. And how could you not, considering all the guys that were on this past year team? Those were Brent Brennan's players. They either stayed or they came to Arizona because they want to be a part of the program. And so I think that their eye for talent, I have no reason to doubt their abilities to get the right kind of players in place, no matter where they're coming from. So I can see where Arizona is considered the 4th best team in the Big 12. But when you consider the schedule, Lev, BYU in week 2, you got to go at Texas Tech on Halloween. Like there's some tough games in that mix this upcoming season. Rich Rodriguez in Morgantown, West Virginia, playing against the Mountaineers out there. Yeah, I could see Arizona finishing 4th or higher, but I could also see them finishing lower as well.
A lot of parity in the league. Wilner called the return of Brennan, Dagey, Gonzalez, and Fafita a grand slam. That makes a lot of sense since those 4 guys, and 4-run home run is a grand slam. He also noted, I thought this was the most pertinent line in his little write-up about Arizona. Says, no program has experienced swings of success and failure quite like the Wildcats. whose win totals over the past 5 years are downright dizzying. Are you ready for the five? For the five, I know you know what it is, but just when you say it out loud, these are their win totals over the last 5 years: 1, 5, 10, 4, 9.
Yeah.
Wow.
Roller
right?
coaster.
Wow.
Absolute
Total roller coaster. All right, let's look at the back 8 here of the 16. Number 9 is TCU. They're just always they're very solid. Big change at quarterback, going from Josh Hoover, who's now at Indiana, to Jaden Craig, transfer from Harvard. Kansas State, Avery Johnson's back. Change of head coach with Colin Klein coming in. Cincinnati, and I'm kind of down in Cincinnati. I'm surprised he has them as high as they do. They really kind of cratered at the end of last season, and they lost Brendan Sorsby to a school within the conference. Kansas, that's an interesting one. You wonder if they've kind of hit their ceiling, sort of similar to Arizona, like basketball school, trying to make it in football. They've invested a lot in facilities and stadium and on all of that stuff. Colorado at number 13, they lost Jordan Seaton to LSU in the transfer portal. They did bring in Brennan Marion to run the offense, so he's been successful as an offensive play caller wherever he's been. So maybe he'll be able to get that going again. He's got Iowa State at number 14. This is going to be a tough rebuilding project / year for their new coach, Jimmy Rogers. They lost over 50 players in the portal, many of whom followed Matt Campbell to Penn State. Gosh, Baylor at number 15. Brought in DJ Lagway as their new quarterback from Florida. DJ Lagway was very banged up during his time at Florida. Was at one time considered like an elite prospect who's kind of needs to author a comeback. And then UCF down at the bottom at number 16. What do you think of that? Anything stand out to you in that 9 through 16 range of teams?
I'm curious how TCU is going to look with their new quarterback. I mean, Sonny Dykes has mentored a lot of great quarterbacks over the years, but losing Josh Hoover, and think about this, man. If you would have told me a couple years ago, hey, TCU, the team that is in the national championship, in the near future, they're going to lose a quarterback to the Indiana Hoosiers. I'm like, what? No way. And that's the reality right now. It's crazy how things have totally flip-flopped. Nebraska basketball, decent. Indiana football, really good, just winning a national championship. So TCU with their new quarterback will be very interesting. And then, Iowa State, man, that's going to be a rough one, man. That is going to be really a really hard year for Jimmy Rogers. But
that's a reset to me.
Yeah.
Right. Like you're just kind of starting from scratch, losing so many players, so much transition. Like maybe it'll work in Oklahoma State's favor having that much turnover because their team was terrible before, like among the worst in Power 4, maybe the worst in Power 4. So maybe there's only one way you can go but up. Colorado, man. Was that like a moment in time with Shedeur and Travis Hunter?
Yeah.
Like, are they gonna get back to that under Dion, do you think?
No, not that kind of hype. I mean, they had Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and all these high-level celebrities all going to Boulder, Colorado for a random game in September. Yeah, I don't think they'll ever get to that. I mean, heck, that was such an interesting 3-week to month span. Like, I'll never forget when I came back home, forgot after what trip it was. Maybe it was the Mississippi State trip or something like that, or whenever that time was when Colorado was buzzing in the early goings of the season. And I went to a Starbucks at a Safeway near the University of Arizona campus, just up the road on Campbell, Lev. Mm-hmm. And near the Starbucks counter was a barrel full of Colorado Buffaloes water bottles. Like they just had a bunch of CU water bottles. in Tucson, Arizona, just up the street from the University of Arizona. But that's just how much like national buzz that Colorado got during that time. So I don't think we'll ever see Colorado get to that level of buzz they had a few years ago. And we'll see how Brendan Marion does. The go-go offense with Julian Lewis is going to be very, very interesting. So we'll see what happens with them.
Yeah, they've also, they've just every year they have so much turnover, and I just wonder, like, if that's a formula for success. How many guys did Arizona bring in through the portal this year? They ended up bringing around 20, 21, 22?
Yeah, right around 21, 22. And then, I mean, as far as like newcomers goes, remember this past year they had 62. Now we're looking at a little over 40. So not as much turnover, but there's still a pretty significant amount of new faces.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of that is just that's how it's going to be every single year. Like, it's just kind of unavoidable, right? But if you look at just the raw amount of incoming players, I'm looking at 247's charting here. This is just incoming portal commits, according to 247 Sports. Oklahoma State 53. We talked about that, right? I mean, like, blowing it all out, new coaching staff, brought a lot of his guys over, so that makes sense. But Colorado 43. It seems like every year they're in that range, right? Like, I just don't know if that's how you build a program. I know Brennan doesn't want to do that. Like 22, 23 guys is probably the most he ever wants to bring in a given class. Do you know who had the fewest incoming? Would you care to guess? Fewest incoming transfers in the Big 12 conference, Justin?
I would probably guess Texas Tech.
The fewest? No, they're at 21.
Okay.
It's BYU. Only 9.
Yeah.
And then the second lowest actually is TCU, which at 12. That's interesting. That's an interesting number. And then Utah at 16. BYU and Utah, they don't really they try to build and develop.
Yeah.
And I think BYU has the LDS kids who they come, they portal over to their mission, if you will, and then they come back. Seems like there's just kind of more loyalty.
Yeah.
To those programs, just a different way of going about it. But man, so much turnover in Colorado every single year. I don't know. I don't love it.
Real quick before we move on to the mailbag.
Yeah.
Is this Dave Aranda's last year? Because it kind of felt like he like Mac Rhodes and that whole situation, like
bought him another year, right?
Yeah, like okay. I'm not the biggest priority for Baylor athletics anymore. It's finding a new AD. Now that he's going into another year,
I would say this
15 or 16. Like,
yeah, I will say this: they have to win. I mean, if they're sitting at like 3-4, or something like that, like a roughly midway through the season, I think he's a candidate to be fired during the season, which we saw a ton of this last year as administrations just try to get ahead of the coaching carousel.
I thought he was going to be one of them leading up to that Arizona game. Seriously, like it was definitely in the back of my mind, but they held on to him. Okay. All right. Back. We'll see if this gong is going to.
You could do the drum roll one, perhaps. Okay. Or something like that. The gong is, man. Wake up out there.
It's intense. All right, so we've got a handful of mailbag questions. We appreciate you guys for submitting these. And Lev, I'm going to just defer to you on this one. The expert here, the guy who's there day in and day out covering the Cats over there at the Juice Box. Adrian James asks, what is going on with Arizona baseball? Can we turn it around this season, or time to make a move? I don't know what time to make a move means. What are you going to
I don't
let go of Chip Hill? I don't know. Here's the one thing I will say about Arizona baseball, Lev, is that, man, the coaching transitions, like, that has an effect. I mean, Arizona's been going through, shuffling through a couple of assistant coaches during this offseason. Not ideal for Chip Hill, especially the timing of it. It's like right before the season. So, Chip is trying to make chicken salad right now. Dealt a very awkward hand this season. Injuries, coaching changes, not a good recipe. And as you noted in your stories after the series against UConn, worst 8-game start in program history. Not good.
So to quote a former U of A football coach, it is a combination of things, Justin. First of all, you mentioned the transition at pitching coach, right? So Kevin Vance, awesome job the last couple of years, like amazing. But he wanted to be a head coach, and he leaves for San Diego State in June. Almost immediately, they promote John DeRuin, who was his assistant, to the pitching coach position. They had worked together, had great results. It made all the sense in the world, right? Continuity. We talked about that earlier. This is how you ensure some continuity. The players are all familiar with him. Owen Cuff, who was kind of the third wheel, he gets bumped up to the number 2 spot. Well, come December, New York Mets offer John DeRuin a job, and he wants to go back to MLB. Like, nothing Chip Hale can do about this. DeRuin had his eyes on pro ball. They sort of felt like eventually this was going to happen. He decides to take that job. This is less than 2 months before the start of the season, right? So then they have to scramble to find someone, bring in Sean Kenny. Then Owen Cuff, who was the assistant, he gets a job offer from the Colorado Rockies. I mean, I would guess that he has tripled his salary with that Rockies job versus what he was making here. I mean, this, like assistant pitching coach, basically. I mean, that's a pretty low paying job in this level of college baseball. So, you're talking about 3 pitching coaches in the span of about 7 months. That's difficult. You add on top of that, you lose your number 1 relief pitcher, best closer in the country last year, Tony Pluta, hurts his elbow. He's out for the season. Okay. Easton Bryfogle, I think, would have been their best hitter. Injures his shoulder, re-injures his shoulder. He's out indefinitely. So that's your best relief pitcher, your best hitter. They have 2 other outfielders who have been injured, Sean Barta and Chaz McNellis. So they're basically playing a couple of corner infielders in the corner outfield spots, which in High Corbett Field, that's a difficult ask because it's so big. And then you're also integrating young players into the starting lineup, and you're asking players who had been role players before to now be like anchors of the lineup. And Andrew Kane and Maddox Michalakis are really struggling right now to handle those added responsibilities. So it's a lot. They're off to a terrible start. They got a really difficult tournament coming up in Vegas where they play Oregon, Vanderbilt, and UC Irvine. I think if they can win 1 game out of those 3, they could actually start to feel a little bit better about things. And they come home the following week. Maybe they can get on a roll a little bit. But the problem is they've dug themselves such a deep hole. They're like 300th or something in RPI right now with those home losses. So it's going to be hard to keep the streak going of NCAA tournament appearances. It's not the end of the world if they don't make it. I documented in the column that I wrote how often they haven't made it, despite what people like to think, that Arizona's never had a down year. It's not true. They've had many down years. They might actually be due for a rebuilding year this year.
This one comes in from Daylight Films. Daylight Films asks, has the football team addressed the defensive line and the offensive line? And what the bleep is up with UVA baseball? So
all right, we've already answered the second one. What do you think about the lines?
Yeah, I mean, offensive line, they went out and got some guys. They got Jake Griffin from BYU, older player, not as experienced as you like from a guy who's been playing college football since, I think, he was in the 2020 recruiting class. So he's a guy that's been around the block, but he was also a part of his. He took his LDS mission to Africa, I think it was either Africa or South America. I can't. Can't remember. But, he's an experienced guy that they're bringing in. Nate Hale from San Jose State, very familiar with this coaching staff. He was recruited to San Jose State by Josh Oglesby, by Brent Brennan. They think his development and his experience and where he's at right now, they think he could really help out Arizona. But I probably think the biggest move on the offensive line was a guy that they're bringing back, Tristan Bounds, a guy that we thought was going to be out of eligibility. And we initially thought, man, Arizona, they're going to have to fill 4 out of the 5 spots on the offensive line with only Alexander Deuce coming back. But now with Tristan Bounds coming back, you'd imagine that he's going to start at right tackle. Now, one thing I'm going to be paying attention to in spring is who's taking over for Bounds during that time. Is it going to be Matthew Lotto? Is it going to be Rhino Tapatotai? Who's going to be essentially competing for that number 2 right tackle spot? Who's going to be competing for the starting left tackle spot? Because that is left behind by Ty Buchanan, who was here for a year and did a very solid job there at that left tackle spot. And then center as well. And Zachary Henning is a guy that I would imagine is going to start at center, the transfer from UW. Started a lot of games last year and replaced Landon Hatchett, who's the starting center for the Huskies a year ago. But Landon Hatchett's coming back to UW. So Zachary Henning's like, hey, I'm a starter. I've shown that I can start at the next level. Let me go see where I can get a starting center job. Well, Arizona needs one of those. And they're bringing in a guy that has experience playing center. They don't need to move a guy who's been playing guard or tackle and move him over to center like they did with Kaina DeCambra. So I think, offensive line, I think they did a nice job adding some pieces. I'm also excited to see the jump that the younger guys are going to take, guys like Louis Akpa at left tackle, who was a part of that recruiting class a year ago. Very athletic, but he's, adding to his frame, and they are really high on him, and they think that he is going to be a great player for them. So they have 20 offensive linemen. Once again, there's no shortage of guys in that room. And as far as defensive line, this is a talking point that Lev and I have discussed. And I know some people might be concerned with the lack of defensive linemen in the transfer portal class. Well, they're bringing back a handful of guys, including Trey Smith, who, in my opinion, has the potential to be an all Big 12 kind of edge rusher, or at least a guy that's getting some consideration. And he's a 6'5", 270-pound defensive end. Like, he is what you want as an edge rusher. And then they're very high on the development of the guys that they're bringing back. And then they also have some promising freshmen too, like Keatron Harris, Prince Williams, Manoa Fapusa, who is, 6'3", 360 pounds, coming in as a true freshman. And, I know people probably recoil when they hear, oh, freshmen on the offensive and defensive line starting. Well, Mace Pesse wasn't really expected to do much this year, and then he became a mainstay really in the second half of the season. It was pretty solid. So, yeah, I mean, how those units look is something I'm going to be interested in and we'll be, kind of focused on during the spring. But don't fret with the lack of defensive line in the transfer portal. I think the guys that they have coming back, also the guys that they're bringing in via the recruiting class. I didn't even mention Kevin Moore, the junior college transfer that they got in from Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
They've got some dudes that they're very high on. And I think I'm going to trust Joe Salave's judgment on this one.
Yeah, it was a little surprising that they didn't bring in any defensive tackles in the transfer portal. But if you look at the way that Danny Gonzalez schemes things up, I don't know how many they really truly need. Like, Trey Smith is a strong side end. Like, he's a big guy. He's probably as big as Kevin Moore is, yeah. Right? So you can kind of put him in that class. Don't forget Leroy Palu is coming back for another year.
Yep.
Zach Siolepa, the project from New Zealand. Like, we'll see what Danny says about his weight when we get together with him next. He was around 400 pounds at like 6'8". He could get down to maybe like 360, 350.
You just gave me his nickname, Lev.
What's that?
The project.
The project.
Like, there's the truth, the answer, the GOAT.
Process.
The process.
The project.
The project.
The project, yes.
Project New Zealand.
Yes. So, I mean, that's a little bit of a concern, to be sure. I'm not as worried about the offensive line. You mentioned some of the guys that they brought in. It definitely seems like Henning is going to be the starting center. That was like, priority number one for them, besides the defensive backfield. And then Tristan Bounce coming back. Wow, what a nice, thank you, NCAA, for granting that waiver, giving Tristan another year of college ball. I think a lot of fans gained a lot of respect for Josh Oglesby last year, seeing the job that he did of putting that line together after they lost some really key and talented pieces. And I think there's a lot of faith that he can do it again.
All right, this one comes in from Irish Mike 62. What do you expect the football staff to do with 3 open scholarships they have for this upcoming season? Well, I crunched the numbers recently, and they're kind of at 105 spots or 105 players on the roster, which would mean they're essentially at full capacity, because with this new revenue share era, each roster is able to have 105 players. But isn't there like also another way to where like players can be on your team, but they're almost like practice squad guys, Lev?
I mean, I think there's a way to grandfather in some players who, like, if you make the case, they're only being, cut because you reduced the size of the roster. So I think you can go slightly over that amount. But I think the fact that there's only one transfer portal window has changed things. Remember, before there was a second window after spring. So there was still some like roster volatility, some additions and subtractions that you could make. Now I feel like this is your team pretty much, unless something unusual happens, something unforeseen. And I know for a fact that Brent Brennan really likes that, right? Like, he likes the idea of like, this is our team. Let's start integrating everybody into our culture. Let's get him in the weight room. Let's explain what red line is. Let's, let's, show them the ways. Yes. And that I felt like, and it was so buttoned up too. Like, didn't you feel like you had a flurry of activity and then it was kind of like over?
Yeah.
That was it. It didn't linger. They just kind of, they identified the spots, the types of players that they wanted and needed, and they went out and got them. And that was pretty much it. Right. There could always be something that happens, grades, or someone gets dismissed, or they leave school for whatever reason. I don't know how many legit players are still out there. They were able to add a running back kind of late in the game, when they had a situation arise with one of their incoming freshmen deciding to go to another school. So, yeah, I don't think they're really going to do much of anything at this point. They've brought in a handful of kicker punter types. To add to the competition in that room. That was sort of a lingering need a little bit. So I don't know. I don't see them like making moves to pick up players unless something, like I said, something unusual happens during spring. Maybe they get a rash of injuries at a certain position.
Lev, what is red line?
Oh, see, this is a good question. Yeah, red line. It means 100 miles per hour, 100% of the time, right? Effort, accountability, all that jazz.
I was going to say effort, execution, accountability.
There you go.
100.
There you go.
You ever think Brent Brennan says that in his sleep? Cordy Brennan wakes up hearing that?
One thing that I will add real quick. We haven't seen it yet. We've seen it in other sports where they've brought players out of the pro ranks back to college. I can't say with 100% certainty that won't happen for sure with football, or someone might try to do it. Someone who has eligibility left, maybe didn't get drafted, they don't want to be on a practice squad. Hey, I want to go back to college. It's not impossible. Let's just put it that way. Would it shock you if that happened with somebody in August?
No.
It wouldn't shock me at all. So just something to keep in the back of your mind.
Crazy. All right. This one comes in from Tuck Librarian 89. They ask, how does a sub 500 coach get a contract extension? He's talking about Brent Brennan having a 47-60 record. Now, we've had this conversation many times, Lev, and not all records are created equal. And you have to think about the circumstances, the situation that they were put in. It's really hard to be a head coach at San Jose State. Like, really hard. I mean, we're talking about just total overall head coaching record. That's because the screenshot on the question has his overall record.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really hard to win at San Jose State. I mean, we're talking about lack of funding. It's not considered the best in the Mountain West. It's in the Bay Area, which is really like a money pit. Like, Brent Brennan gave San Jose State a lot of TLC and really helped establish his culture, his brand, what can work at a place like San Jose State. And it got him to where he's at Arizona. But then in year one, he inherits a great roster, but the depth isn't quite what it should be. Great players on the team, but then injuries started to pile up. And really the timing of Brent Brennan's hire started to show in year two. And then, in year one. And then year two was mostly his guys. And boom, they become the 8th team in program history to win 9 or more games. So if you look at the buildup at San Jose State, he had a lot of successful seasons in the second half of his time there. And if you look at so far at Arizona, going from year 1 to year 2, 4 wins to 9 wins. So I understand that some people might look at Brent Brennan's record like, why are you getting all the money and all these things that why are you getting this opportunity? Well, I think Brent has earned it. And I think that he has put in a lot of hard work to put himself in this position. So I understand some people are probably like, man, why that record does not warrant that kind of contract extension. Well, if you look at the last year and a half, I think it does.
So the person who sent in the question is not wrong. That is his career record. It is 47-60. But I personally dismiss those first couple years. Very difficult place to win. You're kind of starting from scratch. You're rebuilding. If you take out 2-11 and 1-11, he's 44-38 over the next however many seasons is that? 7 years.
You know what Jed's record is?
What's that?
31-33.
Okay.
Sub 500 coach.
I mean, does the 1-11 count against Jed's record? Yes, of course it does, but you have to consider the circumstances. So look, hey, like by this time next year, we could be talking about, hey, Brent Brennan, he did it again. He's got it rolling, made a bowl game again, awesome season. Or we could be right back where we were last offseason where everybody's doubting him if things go south. So that's the fun of sports, right?
Yeah. It's fun of definitely Arizona fans for sure. All right. Last but certainly not least, this one comes in from Carl.
I have one too, by the way.
Oh, nice. Excellent.
I got one late. So go ahead.
Okay. This one comes in from Carl Hansen. Why was the shuttle bus service to the football games discontinued? Seemed to be quite popular with several thousand people taking advantage of it. Certainly a lot of marketing opportunities to encourage fans to attend the games. And Carl, you and I are in agreement. I think that there should be a shuttle service that takes people from Elcon Mall to the University of Arizona and drops them off in front of games.
Oh, he's talking within Tucson. He's not talking about from Phoenix down here.
Oh, maybe he is. I think
you're right. I think
he's talking about the Elcon Mall thing.
Yeah.
Because they are doing the Cat Tran with or the Cat Bus or whatever it is that takes people from Phoenix to Tucson and vice versa after the game. But yeah, they don't have the shuttle service anymore. And I told I said earlier that Carl Hansen, I'm in agreement with you because one thing about the University of Arizona in that area, man, it's hard to find parking sometimes for a big game. You want to be able to go somewhere, get on the bus, and exactly kind of the routine. So yeah, they should bring back the shuttle service. Anyways,
anything that can be done to improve the game day experience for fans is something that they should look into.
Absolutely.
I've heard a lot of people complain about the cost of parking, the logistics of it all. bring back a shuttle service. There was a basketball game this year where it was really rainy. I can't remember which game it was. Kansas State at home, maybe. Anyway, they had a shuttle service to pick you up from the 6th Street garage and take you to McHale. And I did it. Everyone had to do it because you couldn't park on the lawn because it was wet. It was great. I loved it. It was like super easy. It's not exactly the same route that we're talking about here, like coming from Elcon or whatever, but I think it could be done if they wanted to do it. And I will say, the administration under Desiree Reed-Francois, they're very receptive to fans' needs and desires. They put out a lot of surveys. They do listen. So we'll see if that happens. Steve Molina sent in this thing to us about season tickets and ticket holders. And I want to hold off on it one more time because I think it'd be a good kind of off-season topic for us to get into with a little bit more depth. So we'll hold off on that one. But Billy Webb Ellis asks, going into spring practice, which position groups are areas of concern and which are reasons for hope?
Ooh.
Good, solid, basic question. What do you think?
Yeah, as far as positions of concern, man, that is a really difficult one. I'll probably say
concern is not my word. Wouldn't be concern. My word would be like uncertainty.
Uncertainty. Tight end,
even defensive back. Like it's just like so many new guys.
Yeah.
Right. Like where are they going to play? How are they all going to fit together? Are they good?
Yeah.
I mean, we're started the show talking about Traden, Dalton, and Genesis. Those guys are really, really good. And that's a lot of production to replace.
And they have good chemistry too. I mean, chemistry over the course of 3 years. And now you're asking a bunch of transfer portal guys to come in and try to replicate that chemistry the best that you can. So that's a good one, Lev. Tight end, just because there's like the guys who are returning aren't necessarily like proven, right? Tyler Powell was supposed to be that guy this year, then suffered an injury. We'll see about Kellen Ford and where he stands.
Also injured. Yeah.
Also injured. Yep.
Cole Rusk has played.
Yeah.
Significantly. The other two guys really didn't.
No, those guys were more projects.
Yeah.
So how the tight ends all come together. As far as like positions where I'm like, heck yeah, let's go. I think probably outside quarterback, because you got Noah Fafita and then you got Oscar Rios and Sawyer Anderson. But I think wide receiver. I think all of those guys like Trey Spivey, Gio Richardson from year 1 to year 2. I'm excited to see what he can do. And then you have Isaiah Mizell as well, who's a very fast freshman, arguably the fastest on the team right now. And then Chris Hunter, who is a guy that's been, he's the veteran of the group, the guy that's been there the longest. And then you also have some other, returners that are interesting as well, because like Brandon Phelps was a guy that was awesome leading up to the season. And then once the season came around, kind of just, fell off a little bit. Is he going to be right there back into that mix? And then the guys that they added in the transfer portal, DJ Jordan from USC, Jordan Ross from Colorado State, even Rodney Gallagher, who I think is going to be like the Java Watley replacement, the gadget guy that is a guy that can take the top off the defense and is so fast moving up the field. Those guys were all highly touted recruits coming out of high school and didn't necessarily live up to their ranking and just the kind of recruit that they were. So maybe there's some untapped potential that Brent Brennan, who is a wide receivers coach by trade, and Bobby Wade, who's a good wide receivers coach, and then Seth Dagey being able to work with those guys. I mean, that is, in my opinion, a loaded group. We're talking about 6 players that is a part of the rotation, but they have like 8 guys that they could look to that could be a part of that rotation. So I think wide receiver, certainly something that Arizona fans should be excited for.
Yeah, they were not at all satisfied with what they had coming back, even though they had like a good nucleus. So they were very aggressive in the portal and going and getting more guys. I would say running back is another position that I feel pretty good about. You've got Kedrick Reesino coming back, Quincy Craig. I'm excited to see what Wesley Yarbrough and Corn Warren can do in year 2, right? That's a pretty good, strong, deep group. New coach, Lyle Moivau taking over that group. So we'll see if that affects anything in any shape or form. A lot of news going on with ex running back coach Alonzo Carter and Sac State joining the MAC in football. So we got Sacramento State in the Mid-American Conference, and we have Northern Illinois in the Mountain West Conference. Justin, make it make sense.
Oh man, he's gonna be dancing like MC Hammer to try to stay warm when they go out to when they got to Miami of Ohio.
Oh God, yes, like Ypsilanti, Michigan, like
Tuesday
night. It's like 20 degrees. Boy,
you wanted this action, baby, action. But it could also mean, I mean, we'll see what happens with the Arizona Bowl as far as affiliations go. They could be in the Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl, so we can see Alonzo Carter on the sidelines at Arizona Stadium. Oh, excuse me, Casino del Sol Stadium. Once again.
Yeah, they're not eligible this year. I think they have to go through that transition period thing. But who knows? I don't know. We've got no word on that, right? There's been no word on changes to the bowl games other than the Gronk Bowl going away.
Yeah.
Basically, I'm a little surprised that there hasn't been, but
same.
We know people. We'll get you that information as soon as it comes out.
For sure. All right. We appreciate you guys for submitting those x.com Twitter mailbag questions. Yeah, heck yeah. It's February. We yapped about football for well over an hour. Football guys, we are. That is Michael Lev. He is a senior writer and columnist. He's doing a ton of work right now covering Arizona Wildcats baseball, Arizona Wildcats basketball, both teams. Got March Madness coming up, and then spring football right around the corner starting on March 24th. The annual spring showcase, which is fun for the kids, fun for the fans, getting a chance to meet the Arizona football team. We don't know a time for that event. I would imagine it's going to be sometime in the evening. Last year, it was in the evening after the NFL draft, which could be a very fun day that Saturday. You got, the three amigos that we just talked about maybe getting drafted, and then the Arizona Spring Football Showcase. So that could definitely be a fun Saturday. Again, April 25th at Casino del Sol Stadium. That is when the Spring Showcase is. Kickoff time or the start time for the event is TBD, but we'll be sure to give you guys that information. And then, as always, make sure you subscribe, rate, and comment the Wildcast podcast on Apple, Spotify, and get a subscription to the Arizona Daily Star at Tucson.com. We appreciate you guys for listening.